So disclaimer versus rescission of signature, the conditions of their uses by Taj Tariq Bey. A pressing need exists among us, the Aboriginal natural peoples, for clearing up many foul and disingenuous misunderstandings about legal issues and of confronting concepts involving contracts. Conform in this instance means do contracts, as in rules and laws that govern sciences and disciplines, have principled and necessary aspects about them that bring them in harmony and in agreement with ethical and moral rules of construction. At the center of the present controversy is the need for instituting a critical and rational analysis of the validity of the invalidity of contracts. This volatile issue involves, in this treatise, the clearly misrepresented corporate state, birth certificates, marriage certificates, driver's license, and other corporately constructed contractual instruments. The logical question is therefore presented. Are these corporately constructed contractual instruments really formed in the nature of what they are imposing, presented as being? And do these legal constructs possess a veiled nature and functional intent undisclosed? So these are questions. The questionable status of these quote unquote states instruments have long been recognized by those who know law, especially since it is a known fact that these corporate state contract instruments have been lucratively and colorably used by politicians and corporate state officers for straw man revenue raising and mortgage purposes. Did the state, county, city, and municipal municipal contractors and employees reveal any of these political realities to the natural people? Under a wardship assumed authority, the corporate state assumes an alleged contractually generated debt upon the people. The allowed and unrevealed contract supposedly created binding servitude constrictions as imposed upon an unsuspecting natural people. The supposedly debtor state owns the bodies, hereditaments, and unalienable rights of all those who accepted or who agreed to use the aforesaid instruments. These dishonorable conditions and corporate state impositions are prominent in the affairs of the Aboriginal and indigenous natural peoples of Northwest Sumattra, North Africa, North America, the North Cape. What do these geographical names, unfamiliar to some, have to do with the Aboriginal and the contemporary corporate states? For the sake of a reality check and an historical restoring update, these are the true archaic and Masonically veiled names of the homeland and empire of the ancient Moabite Moors. Ancient Amexem is modernly and contemporarily known as Northwest Africa and North America, respectively. The cosmological name of the North Continent is the North Gate. Colonization and reconstructed history is at the root of the lack of familiarity of the true world history and anthropology. And so now another question arises. What do these opening anthropological statements have to do with contracts? Much more than meets the eye. The Moorish nation, Order of Islam, Societas Republica Americanos, being the Moorish nation, federal government, Northwest America, Northwest Africa. This refers to the present veiled Moorish government of North America. These are common points of political reference prior to the agreement established of the contemporary United States of America. Societas Americanos is the real sovereign government, and the generic metaphor, United States of America, is a political and contractual jurisdictional appendage of contemporary construction. Thus, today, we have the only political nation state of the modern world, which is devoid of a free national name, and which distinguishes it from other United States jurisdictions geographically located in the Western hemispheres or the Americas. The other United States of America is Mexico, Estados Unidos Mexicanos, or United States of Mexico. Most all Moorish scientists, royal adepts, master masons, Eastern stars, Great Seal, Moorish national scholars, doctors of law, doctors of philosophy, ecclesiologists, industrialists, government rulers, and politicians, etc., are well aware of true anthropology and culture and have been availed secretive civilization knowledge, principles, and information, the whole of which the general populace has been denied access to, and to which they are essentially held in a state of avoidance. Such secret society knowledge is universally referred to as light. Those who claim not to know these truths are being deceptive or have not studied. The unenlightened among them not ascended the degrees made available to them exclusively and or in secret. In this instance, we will address some of the issues concerning moral, ethical, and constitution guided government by moral and ethical covenant versus its opposite, which is color of office, color of authority, and color of law, and feudalism, etc. The feudalists now operating in the United States government are not lawfully sanctioned, not constitutional. It is therefore only just and proper that the artificially suppressed natural peoples of our nation Moors be aware of the fact that justice is a cornerstone of the high principles which were constitutionally put in place to secure a republican form of government for every state in the United States and for our progeny. Our treaties are secured by Article 6 of the Constitution and are the supreme law of the land. This short treatise is directed in particular to those Moors who live under the bureaucratic, slavery-orientated, mismanaged, and colorable jurisdictions created by colonial European birthright thieves. These Inquisition operatives have dominated and occupied the seats of government in the United States of America, geographically, jurisdictionally, and politically. In the United States of America, the Republic and its veiled, unsanctioned nemesis, the US democracy, are legal incorporates formed on paper and jurisdictionally operate from Central North America. The United States of America is one of the two United States which have political jurisdictions functioning on the North American continent. The other United States is Mexico, Estados Unidos de Mexico. The United States is a modern social and political order of government, which was founded as a republic by the Aboriginal Moors and few honorable sons of Europe. The nature's laws and nature's God principles upon which is founded rests are of humanitarian and Rotarian character. However, and unfortunate for the natural peoples of the world, the European side of the juristic agreement, United States of America, violated the honor and overthrew the Moors. The Dutch masters and the Franciscan Brotherhood coined variable nom de guerres as mental war tools and branded the Moors as Negroes, Blacks, and colors, etc., and bound them under wardship as chattel slaves. This is a violation of the moral and ethical covenants / contracts, being the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States and Morocco of 1787, and a violation of the Constitution for the United States of America and the 1836 one. I'll throw that in there too. That's the last treaty. Around the year 1776 AD, the European began to systematically institute broad-based processes of usurping administrative government geared towards distorting, destroying, and burning original records and historical documents, etc. A practice was instituted for hiding and altering the national records and history of the Moors of the Americas. Secret societies became a must for the ruling descendants of Europeans, and patterns were instituted to hide and to persevere the true covenants as secrets. Thus, the unsanctioned foundation was laid for the contemporarily organized political body called the U.S. democracy. Its monopolized two-party political system arose from the malfeasance and legislation for sale corruption. The U.S. democracy shadow government deviance has since been used methodically to control the legitimate seats of government of the United States of America, the Republic. The U.S. democracy is a deceptive misrepresentation and counterfeit corporately constructed on paper to forward the clandestine crusaders and the secret aims of the Inquisitionists. The U.S. democracy, private contemporary corporation, has no constitutional foundation and is therefore is a coven for corrupt politicians, racketeers, and slaveholders. The U.S. democracy is the artificially created political basis of power by which colorable European governing officials and anti-constitutional subversives perpetrate unjust war and pass colorable legislation to rob and suppress the Moors. Examples of such prima facie legislation is the Negro Acts and the Black Codes. The unsanctioned U.S. democracy people began to unconstitutionally print counterfeit paper and misrepresent it as lawful. Article 1, Section 10, United States constitutional money. They committed a fraud against the Constitution contract for their own selfish control, gains, and benefit. They also began to implement and enforce Bill of Attainder through ministerial courts and to steal the Moors' birthrights, etc. All civilized Aboriginal and Indigenous natural persons, civically and nationally conscious Moors of Northwestern North America are vividly aware that the alien occupational European thrive off the virtues, the suffering, the enslavement, and the energies of the true heirs of the land. These facts are not under any condition debatable. No doubt the greatest sting of justice that the civilized world has ever known has root in the psychopathic behavior, actions, and deeds of the unconstitutionally orientated Union State Society crusader colonists. Political, social, and governmental vampirism within colorable U.S. jurisdictions is a historical and factual characteristic of the occupational Europeans. They have dominated the political and social economical areas of North American society by way of forced slavery, birthright theft, and legal chicanery. To deny this reality is to deny truth and to promote color in government and color of law. It is important for those who love justice and the right way government to look for and to study ways and means of reclaiming one's birthrights. Mass scale application of the same are necessary. Often, freedom equals loving people. We'll see the Uniform Commercial Codes, copyright sovereignties, declarations, and the like to address these corruption issues. Many are aware of the fact that U.S. politicians have been using the birth certificates, licenses, marriage certificates, social security cards, and other state-issued documents, etc., for deeds, bonds, stocks, and lien claims. These conspired acts are an aside from the fact that the state's politicians and government officials also list and file natural people as the corporate property of the state, quote unquote, by way of the nom de guerre and capitalize printing of natural people's names, placing them upon documents under their issuance and control. And so, by self-defense necessity, quote unquote, many people issue public declaratory documents and affidavits according to their true status and correct political allegiances, in contradiction within the de facto North American society. Moorish Americans are declaring their name and nationality, proper person, and birthright status. Other civic conscious and proper government active natural persons have and do use a multiplicity of legal defenses to limit the usurpations made upon them by the extortion orientated, and colored jurisdictions. Some of the natural citizens of the land and some of the juristic citizens of the United States have gone through various methods of claiming the straw man, fictional corporate person, which the state's government, their quasi-government agencies, and the opportunistic politicians have created through these fraud-based and misrepresented documents to amass wealth for themselves and the state's coffers. Keeping in mind that through these artificial corporate person documents, the vampires claim power of attorney over the natural person, you, and without your mutual or conscious agreement or knowledge. The corporate state officers and employees then use the colored documents as negotiable securities of all types. It is upon the evidence of the straw man and power of attorney by wardship that they make their spurious agreements and propositions in their unsanctioned, colorable courts, etc. These court proceedings have already assumed by fraud a claim of power of attorney, and thus a prima facie possession of jurisdiction over the personam, subject matter, and territory. Securities are evidences of debts or of property. Thus, they are evidences of obligations to pay money or of rights to participate in earnings and distributions of a corporate trust and of other property. The straw man has been a profitable social, political manipulation and control tool for the racketeering anti-republic politicians. This has been a veiled method of how the occupational U.S. Democracy Corporation has undermined the Constitution for the United States. This usurped power is used to put their alleged debt on you, especially people branded Negro, Black, colored, etc. They also pose to make the false claim of having leave or power of attorney over you, your property, and your progeny or heirs. Thus, it is upon this constructive and active fraud that unconstitutional politicians, U.S. democracy, make the legal quote unquote claims of having jurisdiction over you, the natural person. The colorable assurances necessary for their clandestine acts are secured by them controlling the U.S. courts, the seat of government, and the quasi-government agencies under constitutional law. The secured checks and balances are in effect, and the corrupt politicians would be neutralized and imprisoned. So what does one do to address these misrepresented contracts? Let's review rescind and disclaimer. Rescind means to abrogate, annul, avoid, or cancel a contract, particularly by nullifying a contract by the act of a party. Rescission of contract. A rescission is the abrogation, annulling, avoidance, or canceling of a contract, particularly nullifying a contract by the act of a party. To declare a contract void in its inception and to put an end to it as though it never were. Not merely to terminate it and release parties from further obligations to each other, but to abrogate it from the beginning and restore parties to a relative position, which would have occupied had no contract ever been made. So that's rescind. Disclaimer. Another element. A disclaimer is the repudiation or renunciation of a claim or the power vested in a person or which he had formerly alleged to be his. Let me read that one more time. Disclaimer. A disclaimer is the repudiation or renunciation of a claim or the power vested in a person or which he had formerly alleged to be his. Okay. A disclaimer is also a refusal or the rejection of an estate or right offered to a person. A disclaimer is the disavowal, the denial, or the renunciation of an interest, a right, or of property imputed to a person or alleged to be his. A disclaimer is also a declaration or the instrument by which such a disclaimer is published. Moors who seek to claim or capture the colorable state birth certificate for the purpose of neutralizing their fraudulent usage as contract securities are reminded that the clerk of vital statistics do not ever release original documents. Other legal point made is that you were not a party nor a signatory to the construction of any of these municipal or county and state documents. The state registrars can only release to the public for a feudal fee certified copies. My suggestion is to disclaim these instruments and contracts as they are allowed and are not signed by you, nor were you a party to their construction. Also declare your impropria persona, one's own proper person, reflecting that you have claimed your name, nationality, and birthrights. Disclaim all alleged worship keepers who allege that they have power of attorney over you. Thus, in your own proper person, you are competent to deal with your own affairs and self-authority. Any contracts implied as binding against you and to which you have no part in their construction are nullities according to the laws of contract. Any allowed, misrepresented, or disclosed features or conditions, adhesions contained in any contract instrument makes them void. Ab initio, which means from the beginning. Such instruments as contracts are invalid and void on their face due to their being misrepresented and thusly in violation of the laws of contracts. Use these rules as a minimum to measure and to judge the validity of or the invalidity of any contract. Review the following necessary components of a contract. 1. Mutuality. The parties must mutually agree to the terms and condition of the contract. Mutual means reciprocal and done by each of two or more parties for or towards the other. 2. Substance. There must be substance offered for substance. Substance is the physical matter, being the real or essential part, and the real content of a statement, a speech, a contract, and the essence or substratum, which underlies and is capable of having attributes or causing phenomena, but which in spite of changes in our manifestations remains the same. 3. Non-vagueness. A contract cannot be vague, obscure, nor can its stated conditions be unattainable. Contracts must be clear, precise, and definitely sensed form expressed and stated. 4. Free will. A contract must be entered into voluntarily and free of restraints or compulsions by the free will of the parties, with emphasis placed on freedom of decision of choice. One cannot construct a valid contract while under threat, duress, or coercion, and against one's will. 5. Right mind. A party to a contract cannot be in a state of unconsciousness, nor in a state of incompetence. Contract entered into by such a party is a nullity ab initio, from the beginning, ab initio. 6. Minor. A party to a contract cannot be a minor. A minor who is one lesser in importance or rank and one under the legal age of competence, usually 21. Competence means the capacity to be sufficient to the requirements and having fitness or ability to be competent, being fit for the purpose. Consider these foregoing facts concerning the Constitution and for the United States of America, all treaties and all contracts. Use them as a critical guide in all your affairs and dealings with the colorable occupational European US democracy. Remember that the corporate state officials consistently violate the law, enforce the Constitution. Can we get some thoughts, feedback on what I read? Let me answer this phone right quick.
Heat. It's that heat right there.
All right, let me stop the